Most people think the world is safe because someone else is watching, the cameras, the guards, the systems. But sometimes danger doesn't walk through the door shouting. Sometimes it slips in quietly, wearing an ordinary face and a calm smile. That's why she noticed first, the cashier who barely earned enough to cover rent but never missed a detail. A twitch in a man's jaw, a hand too close to the waistband, eyes scanning exits instead of prices. Everyone else kept talking, laughing, shopping, but her heartbeat started counting down. And a few feet behind her, Jasonstatham looked up just once and their eyes met. Something silent passed between them, because she wasn't wrong. Something was about to happen, and what came next would silence the entire store. Before we continue, I just want to take a moment to thank you, our viewers, for being here with us. Every story we tell is about the moments that reveal who we really are, the choices made when no one's watching. If you've been enjoying these emotional, real-life stories, please take a second to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. It helps more than you can imagine, and lets us keep bringing you stories that remind us there's still courage, kindness, and humanity in this world. The grocery store had the same soft hum it always did on weeknights, the distant chatter of families, the shuffle of carts, the beeping rhythm of scanners. It was ordinary, comfortable, predictable, the kind of place people drift through without really seeing anyone else. But tonight something felt off. At register 6, Maya, the evening cashier, rubbed her thumb over the edge of a wrinkled receipt and forced a smile at the customer in front of her. "That'll be $18.45, ma'am." Her voice was steady, polite, but her mind was somewhere else, the weight of exhaustion pressing down from a double shift she hadn't planned for. Rent was due, tips were thin, and yet somehow she managed a genuine smile every time someone looked her way. She didn't know why she noticed him first. Maybe it was instinct, that strange, quiet feeling when something doesn't belong. He was standing by the express lane, pretending to check a shelf of gum and batteries. But no one looks at gum that long. His hands didn't move the way normal customers' hands did. No phone, no wallet, no distraction. Just fingers tapping against his jacket pocket. Maya's gut tightened. She tried to shake it off. She'd seen all kinds of people come through, anxious, restless, strange. Maybe he was just waiting for someone. Maybe he was harmless. But then her eyes dropped to his waist. There it was, a glint. Metal black, the shape too familiar from the news, from movies, from that single time years ago when she saw a cop's holster as a kid. Her throat went dry. The man wasn't a cop. His stance wasn't trained, but his hand kept brushing the jacket, as if reassuring himself the weapon was still there. She froze. Her heart hammered in her ears, and the store's background noise dimmed into silence. For a moment she tried to reason it away. Maybe it was just a phone case, a belt buckle, anything. But then he looked up, straight at her, and something in that look told her, "He knows I saw." Maya's lips parted, but no sound came out. She reached for the intercom, then hesitated. What if she was wrong? What if she made a scene over nothing? The last time she'd called security over a suspicious guy, they rolled their eyes. "You've been watching too many movies," they said. So instead, she took a shaky breath and whispered to the next customer, "Could you please wait just a moment?" Then she looked up and saw him again. This time he was moving toward the registers. In the back of the store, Jasonstatham was pushing a cart down the produce aisle, his head down, blending in like anyone else. To most people, he was just another late shopper grabbing fruit, bottled water, and a pack of protein bars. But to anyone who knew him, really knew him, Jason never blended in. He observed. He noticed the way a manager laughed too loudly near the deli. The way a young man kept shifting his weight by the door. The way the air itself seemed to change when tension crept in. And that's when he saw her, the cashier, her face pale, eyes fixed somewhere near the registers, her breathing shallow. He followed her gaze and found the man in the gray hoodie. Jason's pulse slowed. His body didn't tense up the way most people's would. Instead, he stilled completely. The world narrowed into focus. Years of instinct from his time in security, films, and training took over. He didn't know what the man's plan was yet, but he knew one thing: he wasn't buying groceries. The man's right hand was inside his jacket now, not scratching, not fidgeting, reaching. Jason left his cart where it was and started walking, calm, deliberate steps, like a man heading to ask for another checkout lane. But his eyes stayed locked. Maya tried to stay calm, but her fingers shook as she scanned another box of cereal. The customer in front of her noticed. "You okay, hun?" the woman asked softly. Maya nodded quickly. "Yeah, just a long shift." But her gaze flickered again toward the man. He was closer now, his jacket half open. The dark shape at his side wasn't hidden anymore. Her chest tightened. She knew what she had to do. She glanced at the silent alarm button under the counter, something she'd been shown during training but had never actually touched. She reached for it slowly, her hand trembling. But before she could press it, the man stopped at her register. He didn't speak, he didn't take out his items, he just leaned forward, his voice low. "Don't." Her blood ran cold. He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that didn't reach the eyes. "Stay quiet and no one gets hurt." Maya's breath caught. "Please, what do you want?" He tilted his head. "It's simple, the register, open it slowly." She tried to keep her hands from shaking as she reached for the key. Her coworkers were still busy in the other aisles, oblivious. A few customers were too far away to notice. To them, it looked like a normal transaction. Except Jason. From the corner of the next aisle, Jason saw the tension in her shoulders, the angle of the man's arm, and that telltale glint of a weapon shifting beneath fabric. He was close now, too close. He couldn't risk shouting or drawing attention. The man's finger was already resting near the trigger. One wrong move and someone innocent would get caught in the crossfire. Jason scanned the area. Security guard too far. Customers too many. He needed to isolate the threat quietly. Then, as Maya's trembling hand hovered over the cash drawer, Jason caught her eye. Just for a second. And she saw him. Recognition flickered in her expression, not because of who he was, but because of what he projected. Calm, safe, controlled. Jason gave her the slightest nod. A silent promise, "You're not alone." The man's voice sharpened. "Faster." Maya swallowed hard and opened the drawer, the chime ringing louder than it ever had. Her hands shook so badly she dropped a coin roll. It hit the counter, rolled and clattered to the floor. The sound made the man flinch, just enough for Jason to move. In 3 quick steps, he was behind the next aisle's end cap, grabbing a bottle from a lower shelf, heavy glass, solid. He waited, measured. The man's focus was on the drawer again. Maya's eyes darted toward the aisle. She could see Jason's silhouette now, just barely. Then the man's tone shifted, angrier. "All of it now." Jason stepped out, calm, steady, deliberate. "Hey." The man turned. And that's all Jason needed. The bottle hit his wrist with a crack, sending the weapon clattering to the ground. Customers screamed. Maya ducked as Jason grabbed the man's arm, twisting it behind his back in one fluid motion. The man fought back, but Jason's grip was immovable, years of training condensed into controlled precision. Security finally rushed in, too late to do anything but gape as Jason forced the gunman to the floor. "Call the police," Jason said, his voice even, his gaze still locked on the man beneath him. Maya pressed the alarm button with shaking fingers. Her breath came in gasps now, relief, disbelief, everything at once. It was over. Minutes later, police cars lit up the parking lot outside. Shoppers huddled near the entrance, whispering, pointing toward Jason. Some recognized him, others didn't. He didn't care either way. He just stood near Register 6, making sure Maya was okay. "You did good," he said quietly. She looked up, tears in her eyes. I almost froze, I thought." "You didn't," Jason interrupted softly. "You saw what others didn't, that's what matters." Maya nodded, still trembling. How did you know?" He smiled faintly. "I've seen that look before, the one that says something's not right." The police led the man away in cuffs. Maya exhaled shakily and turned back toward her counter. Her hands were still trembling as she picked up the receipt roll that had fallen. The store was slowly returning to normal, but nothing about this night would ever feel normal again. Jason gave her one last nod before leaving, quiet, composed, like a man who didn't need thanks. But Maya couldn't let him walk away. "Wait," she called. You just saved my life." Jason turned back, his expression unreadable. "You saved it first," he said simply. "You noticed." Then he walked out into the night, leaving behind a store full of shaken strangers, and one young woman who finally realized that sometimes the smallest observations can make the biggest difference. And as the doors slid shut behind him, the hum of the store returned soft, steady, almost peaceful again. But for Maya, every sound, every glance, every heartbeat would remind her of that one truth. It only takes one person to see what others don't, to stop what everyone else misses. The parking lot still shimmered under the red and blue lights. Maya stood just outside the store doors, arms wrapped around herself, trying to steady her breath. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw it, the flash of metal, the stranger's glare, the moment Jason's voice broke through the chaos like a thread pulling her back to reality. The officers were still talking to her, asking the same questions over and over. What did she see? When did she notice? What did the man say? But their words barely landed. Her brain replayed the moment in a loop, like her mind was trying to decide if it had really happened. Inside, the janitor mopped up a few drops of spilled juice near the register. Shoppers whispered quietly, stealing glances at the counter where it had all happened. But the noise felt far away, muffled, like she was hearing it through water. "Miss, you sure you're all right?" the officer asked again. Maya blinked, forcing herself back to the present. "Yeah, I'm fine," she said softly. But fine was a lie. Her hands still trembled. Her stomach felt hollow, and every time she inhaled it caught halfway. Jason was standing a few feet away near his parked car, arms folded, head slightly lowered, the kind of posture that said he was still watching. He wasn't in a rush to leave. Maybe he'd seen this before, the way adrenaline fades and silence takes over, the quiet crash after chaos. A young boy tugged his mother's hand as they walked past. "Mom, is that the movie guy?" The woman hushed him, smiling nervously. Jason didn't look their way. Fame had never mattered much to him, not in moments like this, not when someone else had carried real courage. He glanced back at Maya. She was still standing alone, eyes down. Something in that picture hit him, not pity, not guilt, but respect. She'd seen danger when no one else had, and she'd acted, even through fear. That kind of bravery wasn't loud. It was quiet. The kind that changes lives in silence. Jason started walking back toward the store. Maya looked up when she heard footsteps. Jason stopped beside her, hands in his jacket pockets. "You should sit down," he said quietly. I can't," she whispered. "If I stop moving, I'll probably fall apart." He nodded once like he understood. "That's normal. You held it together when it mattered." She looked up at him, her voice unsteady. "How did you stay so calm? You didn't even flinch." Jason gave a faint smile, not pride, not arrogance, just recognition. "Calm doesn't mean you're not scared," he said. "It just means you decide fear doesn't get the first move." Maya exhaled shakily, staring at the dark sky. "I thought he was going to shoot me." "You thought," Jason said, "but you didn't freeze. That's what saved everyone in there." The automatic doors opened behind them with a soft whoosh. The store manager stepped out, a man in his late 40s, anxious and sweating. "Jason, sir, we can't thank you enough. You probably saved a dozen lives tonight." Jason shook his head. "She did," he said simply, nodding toward Maya. "You should be thanking her." The manager blinked, startled. "Her, but she just works the register." Jason's look stopped him cold. "She saw what none of you did. That's not just anything." The manager's mouth opened, then closed again. "Of course," he stammered. "Of course." He looked at Maya with a new expression, not pity but respect. "Take tomorrow off," he said. "Paid, please." She gave a weak smile. "Thank you." Jason turned back to her, voice soft again. "You see, sometimes doing the right thing doesn't make noise at all. It just changes what would have happened next." They stood there in silence for a moment, the hum of patrol cars fading, the night slowly returning to normal. "Do you always end up in situations like this?" she asked suddenly. Jason gave a quiet chuckle. "Not always, but trouble has a way of walking into the same rooms I do." Maya laughed softly for the first time that night. It felt strange, laughter after fear, but maybe that was what healing sounded like. Jason's eyes softened. "You've got a good head, Maya, don't lose that." She frowned slightly. "How did you?" He nodded toward her name tag. "It's right there." Oh, she felt her cheeks flush. "Right." When the last police car pulled away, the parking lot grew still again. The air smelled faintly of rain, the kind that lingers without falling. Jason walked her to the bus stop at the edge of the lot. The fluorescent light flickered above the bench. "You live far?" he asked. "2 stops away," she said, "but it feels like 100 miles tonight." He nodded slowly. "It'll pass. The shaking, the noise in your head, you'll think about it for days, maybe weeks, but it'll fade." She tilted her head. "How do you know?" Jason's gaze drifted to the dark road. "Because I've been on both sides of moments like this, the one who acted and the one who froze." The bus headlights appeared in the distance. Maya hesitated. "I don't know how to thank you." "You already did," Jason said. "You noticed." The bus pulled up, brakes hissing. Maya climbed the steps, turned back one last time and smiled, a small, grateful smile that said everything words couldn't. Jason lifted a hand in farewell, then watched the bus disappear into the rain-slick street. Hours later, he sat in his car in the empty parking lot, staring at the reflection in the windshield. The world had gone quiet again. It always amazed him how danger could hide in plain sight and how heroes could too. That cashier hadn't had training or a plan. She just trusted what she felt. He thought about all the times he'd seen people look away, from fights, from cries for help, from injustice, and realized how rare it was for someone to see and act. Maybe that's why he hadn't been able to leave right away. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a folded receipt, the one she'd been writing on before it all happened. On it, faint pencil scribbles, a grocery list and a phone number in the corner. Maybe hers, maybe not. He smiled faintly. Jason tucked the receipt back into his jacket, turned on the engine, and drove into the night. The next morning, sunlight spilled across the same parking lot, washing away the shadows of sirens. Inside, the store reopened as if nothing had happened, new customers, fresh music, clean aisles. But for those who'd been there, the air still carried weight. Maya walked through the doors quietly, a cup of coffee in her hand. Her coworkers greeted her with nods, awkward, uncertain, but kind. Someone had left a note taped to her register. "You're brave, Maya, thank you." She smiled, not out of pride but disbelief. The world rarely noticed people like her, and now, for once, it had. As she clocked in, she noticed something else on her counter, a folded piece of paper. No note, no name, just a single line written in a firm hand. "It's not about what you see. It's about who you choose to be when you see it." Her chest tightened. She looked toward the security cameras, toward the world outside, and smiled. She didn't need to ask who left it. That night when she walked home, she caught herself looking differently at the world, the quiet corners, the people passing by, the tiny moments most ignored. Every glance carried a question. Would I notice again? Would I act again? Maybe that was what courage really was, not a single act, but a choice you make every day in silence when no one's clapping. And somewhere across the city, Jasonstatham stepped into another late-night diner, sat at a corner booth, and ordered his usual black coffee. The waitress smiled at him, not knowing anything about the man sitting before her or the night before. He nodded back, calm as ever. Another ordinary night, another place to watch. Because in Jason's world, it was never about being seen, it was about being ready. And somewhere, behind another counter, a young cashier named Maya would never forget the night she was.